Alright, as I'm sure many of you have noticed, I haven't been doing Division 2 content lately. Now, of course, there's plenty of reasons why I'm not playing Division. The biggest one is just there's nothing new. It's kind of just the same old, doing the same exact nothing. And, for me, a lot of the people that I played PvP with are gone. So there's no real reason for me to jump into PvP. I don't find it fun. It's not very exciting by yourself. It's just, kind of either you wipe the floor with someone or you get, the floor wiped with you. So I have been pretty much just staying away from it. And, the main thing that I like to do is just play with builds. And of course, with the Division, there's not really too much new stuff. I mean, they added, 3 new items for the season rewards, and I've got them even though I don't actually have rank 100 yet. This probably might be the only manhunt that I don't actually get to rank 100. I just can't really force myself to get in there and play these, these manhunts. Hopefully I can get them done. I don't know if it's going to happen. I hope so, but we'll see. But, the whole thing with, the shotgun, the holster, don't even remember what there's another exotic, isn't there? Something. Anyway, there's stuff in the game that, I've looked at, I've tried, it's just meh, I mean, it's not that great. It's okay to play around with for a little bit, but there's no real, wow factor there. There's nothing, that really just brings out the epitome of what a build should be, or there's nothing just exciting and new there. It's all kind of, rehashed garbage from other builds that you could probably do with something else. It's just and I know there's plenty of other YouTubers who are posting builds that are, just pretty much the same exact thing that we've been seeing over and over again. I mean, how many SMG, AR, shotgun, skill builds or status effect builds or anti-skill builds with hazard protection or explosive resistance builds can you see and say that they're new? You really can't. And the only kind of new builds are just garbage builds that are basically just, like I did with the worst things that you can put on a build, and that's what you get. You get something new, but everyone knows you shouldn't use it. But with this video, what I actually wanted to do was focus on a couple things that I actually would recommend maybe you giving a try. Because as much as you may like the Division, or as much as you may just be, bored with the Division, there's always something else out there to at least invest your time into for maybe just a little bit, just long enough to give yourself a break, maybe, refine your enthusiasm for the Division, or just find a new passion for something else and just kind of, take a little time off just to break away from the Division so you don't feel like you need to go back immediately. Now, the first two things that I can't recommend more highly are actually 2 TV shows. The first one being The Expanse. Now, you might not be into sci-fi type shows, and actually this is the season 1 promo trailer. It is no longer on Sci-Fi. I think it's on Amazon now. But the show itself is really good, at least in my opinion. It's a futuristic dystopia type vision. You've got Earth versus Mars versus the asteroid belt. So Mars has basically been colonized and kind of become its own independent planet. And of course you've got the misfits out on the belt, basically just trying to scrape out a living, trying to form some sort of government among themselves, protect themselves, that kind of thing. And of course there's obviously a little bit of a plot twist going on, but it is definitely a very good show. It's highly entertaining. It starts off a little bit slow, but if you are into this kind of thing, you're probably going to love it. The second show is actually Black Sails on Stars. Now, this show, I didn't really think I would end up enjoying it as much as I did. It's kind of a prequel to the Treasure Island book, if you even know what I'm talking about, if you've ever read Treasure Island. And of course, being on Stars, it's definitely filled with more of the adult content regarding, sexual themes and violence, and just all that, good old pirate stuff. Now, the first game that I'm going to suggest to you is Remnant from the Ashes. Now, this game actually came out, I don't know, about a year or so ago, and I did play it at launch, and I made a few videos, just, I wasn't really taking it seriously as a, YouTube content type, material. I was just playing it for fun, and I did have a lot of fun. But recently, some of the people that I know on Xbox ended up getting, the DLC for it, and I decided, I'd go back in, get the DLC, and, start having fun with it again. And yes, I've had a lot of fun. I've almost put in about 130 hours at this point, maybe over the last, 2 or 3 weeks, 130 hours into the game. The main reason I love this game so much is because in many ways it offers things that I wish the Division would do or wish the Division would do better. The best way I can describe this game is it is the third-person Diablo looter shooter that we've kind of wished that the Division could be. Now, of course, I do wish there was some actual PvP aspects to this game. You can have some, like mini fights with your friends or whatnot, but it's not really designed for that, and it's mostly just an abuse of the, teammate damage mechanics, so you don't, just ignore the abilities of your team, so you actually have to, like, pay attention. But it is there, and you can, fight your allies if you really want to just have some fun for a little bit. But the biggest things that this game offers are boss fights. Amazing boss fights, and once you start getting fully geared up and you start to fully understand how the boss fights work, they are really well thought out. But words can't really express just kind of the awe of going through these boss fights the first time. I mean, they feel new, they feel fresh, and they just feel like something that Division is lacking so incredibly much. And while it may not be as deep and as detailed as a lot of the stats in the Division, it definitely has its own flair for build diversity. I mean, you can make any sort of build that you really want. I mean, within boundaries, of course. I mean, personally, I love my tank lifesteal build. I love my minion build, and I love my status effect build. I mean, there's just plenty of options there to just kind of dive in, play around with, tweak little things, and, of course, experiment with. Because all the bosses are different, all the enemies are different, there's different weaknesses, different resistances, there's different abilities, there's different timing, it's just, there's so many different variables between the bosses that you can't always guarantee that one style will work all the time. And, of course, once you start dialing up the difficulty, going from normal to hard to nightmare to I haven't even tried it yet, but apocalypse, the boss fights really ramp up their difficulty and kind of their expectation of the knowledge that you have of those boss fights. So, the same thing that you use to barely squeak by the boss the first time probably isn't going to work in hard. And the thing that you used in hard probably isn't going to work in nightmare. And it's kind of like, the normal mode just depends on you being good enough, maybe having some understanding, maybe figuring it out in time to beat the boss. Hard mode requires that, you have a little bit more of those things. So not only can you just squeak by, but you have to have knowledge of the actual boss fight. Or you have to be able to dodge attacks or, figure out what kind of build you need or what ability you need to use for this boss. And then, of course, once you actually get into Nightmare, then you need to, know the boss fight. You need to have the, a build or two that can work. And, of course, you need to also be able to time your dodges. And then, then once you get into Apocalypse, it's pretty much, you need to have everything, locked down as to how this boss fight needs to go. But I'm actually going to be making some more videos just because I know there are people who are a little bit hesitant to jump into this game. And, I mean, if you are on Xbox Game Pass, it is free, so you might as well just give it a try anyway. Just play through it for, an hour or two, see if you like it, see if you don't. I mean, you like third-person shooters, you like, getting loot. I mean, it's a pretty easy game to actually get into. Now, the second game that I would suggest is kind of highly controversial, and that's just because of the problems with the actual development process and a lot of the issues with the game, performance on older generation consoles. But if you happen to have the new generation, if you have the One or the Pro, I would highly recommend the game. But if you have the base Xbox One or the base PS4, there might be a little bit too many issues for you to actually enjoy the game fully. I would still highly recommend you having an SSD, regardless of which older generation console you play on. But I had a lot of fun. I played on the Xbox One X. I didn't have nearly any of the problems that was plaguing the internet. I had some minor issues, mostly just the crashing at inappropriate times. But the game had a robust autosave feature that basically kept me from losing anything. I think the biggest loss of time I might have had was 5 minutes or so. Now I fully understand that, for $60, a lot of people didn't want to take the risk, but I think there's probably a price drop at this point, or you could probably pick up a used copy at GameStop. But either way, I think it was a great game. I loved a lot of the weapon options. I loved, just the storyline of the characters and just, just diving into the character aspects themselves. Especially the character of Judy Alvarez. She was really well done, probably one of the best written characters and one of the most detailed characters I've experienced in a video game in a very long time. So if you're in the state like me where you're just kind of done with the powers that be, done with the games that are available for you, these might be some of the things that you want to try. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.